We're talking to George Takei. If you recognize that voice, yes, it is George. It is Sulu, Lieutenant Sulu, helmsman of the Starship Enterprise. So how did you go from that experience to becoming one of the most famous actors in the United States? When I asked you before how long you did Star Trek, and you said just 3 years, I mean, it seems to me it went on for decades.
It's the reruns.
Yes.
And once we were canceled, the syndicators put us on every night, 5 days a week. So people thought that we had 1,000 episodes, but it's the same episodes from 3 seasons being rerun over and over again.
So how did you go from that intern child to the actor that you are today?
Well, I loved acting. I loved performance. One of my grammar school teachers cast me as an Indian chief in a Thanksgiving pageant, and that was thrilling. But my father said, well, you know, being interested in the arts, culture, theater is fine, but you don't make a living at it. And he was in real estate by that time, and he, I think, fancied having an architect's son and having Takei and Son real estate development. I would design the buildings and he would develop them. So like a good son, I began my college career as an architecture student up at Berkeley. But after 2 years, the fire in the belly kept getting hotter and hotter. And so I came back down to Los Angeles and girded my loins for a knockdown, drag-out debate with my father. And I said, Daddy, I want to go to, I want to be honest with myself. I want to test my wings. I want to study acting at the Actors Studios in New York. And my father said, yes, I know about them. They're a fine, distinguished, respected acting school, but they won't give you a diploma when you finish your schooling there. And your mother and I want you to have that legitimacy. So you're a bullheaded kid. You're going to do it anyway. Let me remind you, New York is a crowded place, a competitive place, and an expensive place. And you have to be prepared to do it all on your own. However, right here in town, at UCLA, they have a fine theater arts department, and if you study there and you finish, they will give you a diploma that you're legitimately educated. Your mother and I want you to have that. And so if you choose UCLA, we'll subsidize you. So you choose New York on your own or UCLA with subsidy. I made a self-discovery. I'm a practical kid.
And then the jump to the Star Trek role, and did you ever imagine that Star Trek would become this cult, have this cult following really for so many years afterwards?
Well, it turned out, you know, Daddy knew best, because I was seen in a student production at UCLA and seen by a casting director from Warner Brothers who was in the audience, and he plucked me out of that, put me in my first feature film, Edna Ferber's epic novel about Alaska, Ice Palace. And so breaking into the movies was a piece of cake, actually, going by my father's advice. And that same casting director, Hoyt Bowers was his name, put in a word for me later on when Gene Roddenberry was casting for Star Trek. And I wound up with that iconic, legendary now, sci-fi TV series.
So talk about Star Trek. It broke ground in so many ways. I mean, we all grew up on it. It was a most diverse cast, to say the least. Women, people of color. Who put this together? I mean, what was this the brainchild of?
Gene Roddenberry was the visionary. He was the creator and producer and wrote some of the episodes. And when I first went in for the interview, he shared his philosophy and his concept. And the key thing was, he said, the story will take place, the majority of the story will take place on this vast starship. It's a spacecraft, but we're calling it a starship. And this starship is going to be populated by about 1,000 crack professional scientists, engineers, people that are necessary to make this ship move. And this starship is a metaphor for Starship Earth. And the strength of the starship is in its diversity. Coming together, people from different parts of this planet, people from different cultures, races, languages, faiths, and ideas, working together in concert and working out, the differences and finding the common ground. And that's what's going to move this ship forward. And so you saw that visually, but you also saw the non-visual diversity. At a time of the Cold War, we had a Russian trusted member of the crew, Chekhov, the navigator. So, it was that kind of diversity that Gene Roddenberry envisioned. I mean, the Cold War was at its coldest point, but he said, this too we can overcome. He was an extraordinary man, and I think that was the key thing that contributes to its continuing popularity.
And what was your relationship like with the other actors who became so iconic, every one of them, from Spock to Kirk to...
I received many gifts from Star Trek, and one of the best is that my work colleagues have become my lifetime friends. When Brad and I got married, in the Democracy Forum of the Japanese American National Museum, our best man was Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov. And
what year was that you got married?
2008, right before Proposition 8 came down, the ballot measure that banned marriage equality until the Supreme Court ruled on it.
Were you openly gay through all this time?
I was not openly gay. I wanted to work as an actor, and it would have been dangerous, in fact impossible, to be hired as an actor if I were out. It wasn't until 2005 that, well, it happened again because of a political thing that happened. Both houses of the California legislature passed the marriage equality bill. It was precedent-setting because Massachusetts had marriage equality, but that came through the judicial route. In California, we got it through the legislative route. That bill went to the governor's desk for his signature. The governor at that time happened to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. When he ran for office, he campaigned by saying, I'm from Hollywood, I've worked with gays and lesbians, some of my best friends are, all the cliches. So I was confident that he was going to sign it. When he played to his right-wing Republican base and vetoed it, my blood was boiling. And I saw all these young people on the evening news pouring out onto Santa Monica Boulevard, protesting Schwarzenegger's veto. And I felt I needed to participate, get my voice heard in that. And for that voice to be heard, it had to be authentic. And I came out to the press. I'd been out, quietly. Friends, family, some relatives, but in 2005, Arnold Schwarzenegger's veto prompted me to speak to the press, and that's what's called coming out openly.
I'm curious about this other life that you've developed in the digital age, this enormous following that you have on Facebook. Could you talk about, were you surprised by that, by how many people want to know what you have to say?
I was astounded by, first of all, the rapidity of its growth and how large, how massive it can be. I have people responding from Brussels or Belgium or Perth, Australia, or from Buenos Aires. It's global. I mean, this is Gene Roddenberry's vision, this starship Earth
it's
coming
intergalactic.
together. Yes. Why I began social media has another ulterior motive. I came across an extraordinarily gifted composer-lyricist in a Broadway theater, of all places. And we talked about the subject of the internment of Japanese Americans during the Second World War. And I told him that I had always planned to write a play on that subject. And he thought it would be a great subject for a musical. And, you know, I'm a musical theater fan, but I never thought of a musical. It was a brilliant idea, because I've been on speaking tours to corporations, universities, governmental agencies, but, you know, it's intellectual. And to really get people to empathize, you have to hit them emotionally. And music has the extraordinary power to do that.
Let's go to a clip of Allegiance, a new American musical.
Even when all hope seems gone, come on. Remember song I teach you? Our mountain can be moved stone by stone, eh?
A clip from Allegiance, a new American musical. It's coming to Broadway?
It's coming to Broadway, and that's what gave rise to my activity with social media. Here's a subject that is still too little known and even less understood, and it's a rather shameful part of American history. And here we've invested so much of ourselves, our talents, our energy, our enthusiasm, our passion, and our resources. And are we going to be able to find an audience for it? And so I thought, well, social media is the way to do it. But my base was essentially sci-fi geeks and nerds.
Lieutenant Sulu, where'd you get the name? Where did they get the name Lieutenant
Oh, there's
Sulu?
a whole story to that, too. Again, Gene Roddenberry's amazing thought, profound thinking on each of this. As I said, the starship, the crew of the Enterprise was to represent the diversity of this planet. And Uhura represented Africa. Captain Kirk represented North America. Scotty the engineer represented Europe. And there was this character that's to represent Asia. But Asia in the mid-20th century was a nation that, or area of the world that had a turbulent history of warfare, colonization, revolution. And to find a name that for this Asian character that was not nationally specific, you know, Takei or Tanaka or Yamada is Japanese. Wong, Hong is Chinese. Kim, Pak is Korean. And there's a turbulent history there. And he didn't want to take sides. So his challenge was, how do I find a name for this character that's Pan-Asian, represents all of Asia? And he was looking at a map of Asia that he had pinned on his wall. And he was staring at it. And he saw off the coast of the Philippines, the Sulu Sea. And he thought, the waters of a sea touch all shores. And that's how the name Sulu came about. But because he cast a Japanese-American actor, he came up with a Japanese first name. And that was taken from a great piece of Japanese literature, The Tales of Genji, a young prince who was great at military strategy and a poet, but also brought people together and brought about peace.
Hikaru Sulu. Well, Hikaru Sulu, otherwise known as George Takei, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Legendary actor, activist. This is Democracy Now!
Visiting with you.
It's been great. We'll be back in a minute.